Hello, fellas and fellaritas. Smiling Sam Alvey here. As you probably knew that because you clicked on my YouTube link and it says Smiling Sam on it. What I wanted to talk about today was the direction of the UFC. I was having a conversation with some friends of mine via message board or Facebook group or something. Actually, I met this guy at Lowe's. And he was impressed that I was a nice dude. So he hit me up on Facebook, and I'm part of his group chat. And it's a lot of fun. We talk fights and stuff. And they actually renamed their group chat Smiling Sam's Fan Club. So that was uncalled for, but I'm honored. But anyways, they brought up a point, and I thought, you know what? That would be worth talking about. Direction of UFC talent. There are so many fights. I mean, there's just about every weekend of the year there are fights, whether it be at the Apex or a major stadium, something like that. They're every week, and I'm losing track of who the fighters are. Since Conor McGregor, and it might have been around Conor McGregor's time that this really started becoming a changing tide. Conor was such a grounding force. He entered the UFC and just took over. He changed the way people were. People no longer have personalities. They try and have Conor's personality. Colby Covington tries to have Conor in a cringer way. Triple C tries to have Conor McGregor, but in a cringer way. Sean O'Malley's tricky. We all compare him to Conor McGregor, but he goes out of his way to try to make sure he's not Conor McGregor. You know, when there's the shark in the room, which is what Conor is. It's hard to try and copy him. He's the biggest and the best. Chael Sonnen was before Conor, but he did it differently. It wasn't quite Conor copying Chael. So anyways, I got sidetracked a little bit. Anyways, the point of the group chat was fighters aren't being as memorable as they once were. Those fighters that are or that were memorable, they're retiring. Cowboy Cerrone just retired. Nate Diaz and Nick Diaz are begging to get out of the UFC, at least publicly. I don't know if they are privately. You get the old dogs, the guys that have been in the UFC for close to 10 years or more. I'm real close to 10 years. They've still got an individual personality. But if you look at any fighter in the last 4 or 5 years and tell me a trait about them, it's hard to come up with. Sean Strickland does, but again, Sean's been in the UFC for getting close to a decade now. And the list of fighters that are competent enough to create their own way in the MMA world is just, it's limited because those that succeed just try and be Conor. In 10 years from now, let's say 15, 20 years from now, will Sean O'Malley still be will Sean O'Malley be remembered? I don't think he will, even though he's trying to do his own thing. I know he makes more money on Twitch than he does fighting, or at least I think that's what I've heard. But in 20 years from now, will Colby Covington be remembered? Will Triple C, will he be remembered? Now, there are a couple guys that have the potential to be remembered forever. Paddy Pemblend, sorry. He, through no effort of his own, people have taken a shining to him. He's him. He has, I think it's his look. He's got that look, and he may be remembered. We'll see how this weight cut thing goes for him. I know people are upset with how big he gets. Let's see, other fighters. Who you get in the comments? Who are some other fighters that might be remembered, 20 years from now? I'm not so sure that there's going to be much of a list. Back in the heyday of the UFC, when the UFC was not paying as much, when the UFC was not on every weekend, they had the characters. They had the Rampage Jacksons, the Chuck Liddells, BJ Penn for the moment, GSP. Although GSP didn't have a big personality, he was very, very memorable because of how, the one quote, "I am unimpressed with your performance," that'll last forever. But he had his character to him, and he always played into that character. By played, I mean he was just himself. Chael Sonnen's one. He'll be remembered forever. He just spoke better and more clearly, more elegantly than any fighter before or after. He will be hard to beat. Now, back on point. The fighters nowadays, they're all, to an extent or another, trying to copy Conor McGregor. You get a couple guys, who's the fellow that wears the camouflaged shorts? He's going to be for a long time because of the camouflage. He's making his own personality. So, for you young fighters that are watching this, you need to have a personality, because fighting is important, winning is important, but that personality is what will make you a legend, what will make you remembered 20 years from now. Outside of, being an astonishing fighter. Izzy kind of made his own thing. He does the anime thing and he's got a great nickname, the Style Bent, the last Style Bender. I love it. But he's got a personality that is unlike anyone else. And he plays into it. Everything he does now is he's making his hand signals or whatever he's doing. And he's, for the rest of time, people remember him as, I am that guy. I am the anime king. As good or as bad as his fights turn out to be, he will be remembered for that. So fighters out there, make a personality for yourself. I say that's the wrong thing to say. Figure out what your personality is, and then just be that. Be your personality. Don't try and change it. You have to be different. Right now, you watching at home, fighter or not fighter, the UFC's got a roster of 800 fighters or so. How many of them can you name? How many of them can you remember? I do know the UFC is going a different route right now. I know the United States has more fighters in the UFC and more talent in the United States than any other country. So the United States crowd arenas don't support their individual fighters like Brazil will, or Russia will, or China will. So it's a safe bet. So one of the ways I bet on fights is I see if there's an Asian guy fighting an American guy, bet on the Asian guy. Because the UFC needs to build the fighters overseas, because the U.S. market, we're saturated. We've got a bunch of people that are trying to be Conor McGregor, trying to be remembered that route. And although we can beat the Chinese eventually, they're not going to give the Chinese opponents, or the Asian or the Russian or the this or that, they're not going to give them the best we've got until they're a name over there, until they're stacked up and really on a tear. Once they're on a tear, then they'll get fed to one of our guys, because then it'll be a big fight. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you are an American fighter, if you're a foreign fighter too, I obviously, but the foreign fighters, the UK fighters have the UK supporting them. The Irish fighters have the Ireland supporting them. The American fighters have a harder time because there's a lot more of us. You have to stand out. And the way you stand out, be yourself, but amplify it. Let everybody know who you are. Don't try and copy someone else. Don't be the smaller fish copying the big fish. Be you. Enjoy you. People will love you. We have a very unique sport. We really do. It's a sport that puts us in front of other people more than football players, more than baseball players, more than anything else. We can have a personality, but it's amazing how many fighters do not have a personality, do not have a memorable personality. Myself, I smile all the time. It is not a character I do. It is what I do. But you know what people remember? That smiley guy. I get it all. You're that guy that smiles. Whether or not they remember I'm Sam Alvey, they remember I'm that smiley guy. And I suspect, I could be wrong. Who knows? It's not even that important to me that 20 years from now people remember me. But I suspect my smile will be remembered. Also, I'm a tall, ginger, pudgy kid. So that has a thing to itself as well. Enjoy the sport, love the sport, try and give the fans back whatever they can, but make a personality of your own and amplify it. Enjoy that personality. Other people will too. So that's my advice to you guys. I know I rambled a little bit. I like talking. This would have been more fun. Maybe I'll do this topic again with a round table, get 3 or 4 other of my fighter buddies doing this too. But if one of you want to do it with me, DM me on Instagram. Maybe we can set it up, do an Instagram live or something where we're just talking about stuff like this. But enjoy the sport. I love the sport. There's not a person alive that loves the sport more than me. I'm Smiling Sam. I'm never going to be a Conor McGregor. I'm never going to try. So anyways, never don't smile, guys. I love you all. And hey, we'll talk soon.